Hey guys, it's Max. Welcome to my autofocus and IBIS comparison between the Sony A7 III and the Fujifilm X-H1. Both of these cameras are brand new and they're getting a ton of attention. I'm getting so much messages, comments, emails of people just asking me to compare the two. In my last video where I looked at low light, some people got upset saying this is a APS-C crop sensor, this is full frame, why would you compare them? Well, honestly, they're both brand new cameras, great for video, both of them are, and there's very similar price point. This is $100 less. But if you add the grip, it's more expensive than the Sony. So I think they are definitely competitors. And here we're going to take a look at some real world situations where you'd like to use autofocus. Now the Sony has a crazy autofocusing system with phase detection. It has like 693 of those points. The Fujifilm has less, but with the X-T2, that camera did really good for video autofocus. So I'm excited to see what Fujifilm has done with this brand new camera and see if it could keep up with the Sony. So we're going to set these up side by side here, and we're going to be taking a look at a situation where many YouTubers find themselves in, where they're setting up a camera. They don't have a cameraman, and they just want to record themselves being able to walk around, move around, and make sure the camera stays in focus. So typically here I will have Vadim walk forwards and then kind of stop, walk backwards, maybe dip down, see if they're stepping into a shot, how it's gonna pick up their face and hold on to there. So one thing I do want to mention, I really like Fujifilm cameras. I think a lot of you guys, especially the Fuji fans, think that I'm biased against Fuji. If you guys saw my previous videos on the X-T2 and the X-T20, I love those cameras. They weren't perfect, and I do point out the flaws when I do see them because I want to be subjective with any cameras. Sonys have issues, all cameras have their own quirks, and my job is to let you guys know the good things about a camera, the bad things about a camera, and let you find and decide what camera to buy that's going to fit your needs perfectly. Here we're using face detection. Both cameras are doing a great job. I had Vadim dip. The Fuji went to the background quicker and a little bit more surgical, more artificial maybe than the Sony, which is doing it smoother. And the older Sonys used to do that same thing. You can tweak in the settings the speed though, so you could slow it down a bit, but these are both at normal settings. Now walking backwards, I mean, they're both doing a great job. The Fuji went out for a split second, caught back up. Here the Sony went out for a split second, caught back up. And then they're both overall doing great. Now here, the Fuji is actually focused on the background, and that is because it can no longer track the face at this distance. As you guys saw, the Sony is still seeing his face even though he's so far away, whereas the Fuji isn't. So I had Vadim start walking forward so I could see when the Fuji is going to recognize his face, and I think the Sony has an advantage here because of how much autofocusing points it has and the coverage on the sensor. And you guys can see right here, bam, the box just popped up on the Fuji. Both cameras are doing an excellent job. And lastly, putting an object in front of the camera, and they're almost identical here. The Sony is a little bit smoother in its transition, but overall they are very close. Now I'm going to test out a sports scenario for all of you guys who are shooting soccer games, basketball games, any type of fast action. I'm going to take the face detection off. I'm going to just select a point of different focus points where the subject is, and then I'm going to boost up the speed and the sensitivity of the focusing on both cameras so that way it'll track fast action better. I'm going to have Vadim kind of sprint a couple times towards the cameras and we'll see how they keep up. They both seem to be doing a really good job tracking Vadim, even though he's running really fast towards the camera. So this is great if you're shooting sports. The one thing that I am noticing is that the Sony has a very smooth transition. Let's see that again. Just take a look at the background. The Sony is perfectly smooth the whole time, whereas the Fuji has some kind of faster, more twitchy changes in the background. But other than that, they're both doing a fantastic job keeping up. Before we look at IBIS, I have to give a big shout out to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. Blinkist is an app that condenses the best insights from thousands of books into just 15 minutes of reading or listening. I've been using Blinkist for a few months before they reached out, and I've been loving it. Dedicated reading can be tough with a busy schedule, and most books seem stretched out to reach a certain page count. So it's great to get to the key points and get to listen to a full book just on my commute to work. It's also nice to get a quick reminder from books that I've already read, like Grant Cardone's 10X Rule and Gary Vaynerchuk's series of books, including the brand new Crushing It. Invest in yourself by using the link in the video description, and my first 500 subscribers will get 20% off a monthly or yearly membership for as little as about $5 a month, or you can also check out the free trial. So now let's finish off with IBIS. Sony has been using in-body image stabilization for quite a while now, and with that said, even though the A7 III is the best one yet for video, it's still not very good. Whereas this is Fuji's first take on IBIS, and I'm excited to see how well it does. Looking at these side by side, the Fuji is definitely much smoother. It almost looks like a glide cam or a gimbal, where the Sony is wobbling side to side. Now the one thing I did notice here, where we start to pan, you could see where the IBIS is reaching the maximum point, and it kind of quickly jerks back on the Fuji. Here's that example once again. The Sony is smoother going side to side, where the Fuji just kind of clicks to reset. And then holding both in hand without moving. Both do a good job, but I think the Fujifilm does do a little bit better. You can see that kind of resetting motion on the left-hand side once again, and then when I walk forward, the Fuji is super smooth, and then once I run, both don't look very good. And now for the final test is going to be using these cameras on a gimbal. So I'm going to be walking around getting some shots, maybe doing some rack focusing, walking with Vadim, and seeing how smooth and steady the autofocus is, because this is definitely one area where I love using a camera that has a good autofocusing system. So I already know that the Sonys are quite good. I've been using them on gimbals for a while. We have a nice smooth transition, and I don't get much shifting towards the background. It's going to pick up this tree here, and it's going to lock on tight with the autofocus. I can go ahead and make my movements, switch over to another tree, and I'm free to just be creative, do what I want to do. I mean, there's not a lot here in this park to shoot, but in general, the camera kind of gets out of the way, and I'm able to control it quite well. Nice smooth transitions. It is a little bit overexposed here in the sun, and kept going behind the clouds and then in front and all that type of stuff, but the Sonys do a good job, as you guys could see here. I'm tracking Vadim, he's walking forward, I'm walking towards him, keeping up on his face right here. I can spin around, and this is so nice to have an autofocusing system like this when you're on a gimbal. So even though the Fuji is an APS-C sensor, it does weigh more, it is larger, but with that it also has a better grip, and it feels like it's more durable, more robust. And I really like this LCD display that's here at the top. So the X-T2 did a good job on a gimbal, and I have some gimbal footage in my review and some other videos on it, but there was a little bit of like a pulsing, a little bit of like micro judder, not like the GH5 has, a little bit different, and it just made it not as smooth as like the Sonys. So we'll see how this thing does. Let's start out here with the overexposed trees, because the sun just came out. It's doing a good job switching between the trees, but we do still have a little bit of judder there in the background. Let's go ahead and record Vadim here. He's walking towards me, I'm walking towards him, and it just picked him up right there when he got a little bit closer, and it's doing a good job tracking his face. I can spin around. It's gonna go ahead and hold the focus on him, so that's definitely nice. The one thing I noticed with the X-T2 is sometimes you'd have smooth transitions, and other times you'd have that kind of a judder that I talked about. So here we're going to see that it's going to focus on this electrical box quite smoothly, and it's going to track it without any issue. Now here it does a nice smooth job. I did see a pulse there in the background for a split second. I don't know if they need to tweak it to be smoother, or maybe it's just the lenses, where they're older designed lenses. Fuji's mainly shooting photography. They're just now getting into video, and in photography you just want it to switch as quick as possible. So we'll see what they could do in the future. So once again here, going to the tree, we have a nice smooth transition, but then going back to the background we have that kind of pulsating once again, which is unfortunate. So overall, the Fujifilm is definitely usable for gimbal work, but I would have to say that the Sony does take a step ahead of it in regards to autofocus. Alright guys, thanks for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you guys want to see my full shootout comparison between these two cameras, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications. And if you guys are interested in the X-H1 for a video, you can check out my X-T2 review. Majority of that information is going to be valid to this camera. So it's a great review. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it. Thanks for watching. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next one.